Hello, this is Heinlein's Children, the series of interviews commemorating the 25th anniversary of Robert Heinlein's passing. Sponsored by Ban Books and produced by the Space Frontier Foundation. I'm Dr. Kiki Sanford of This Week in Science, and I'll be your host. Our guest today is Peter Diamandis. He's an engineer and entrepreneur, best known for being the founder and chairman of the X Prize Foundation, the co-founder and chairman of Singularity University, and the co-author of the New York Times bestseller, Abundance: The Future is Better Than You Think. He is also the former CEO and co-founder of the Zero Gravity Corporation, the co-founder and vice chairman of Space Adventures Limited, the founder and chairman of the Rocket Racing League, the co-founder of the International Space University, the co-founder of Planetary Resources, and founder of Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. He is an important transitional figure in the development of the current new space industry, and it is my absolute pleasure to get to speak with him today. On the web, I found your personal motto, quote, "The best way to predict the future is to make it yourself." How much of this motto comes from fiction influences?
The notion that we have the ability to envision a future and make it, I think the future that I envision is a science fiction future. I see the future through the works of Robert Heinlein, through the works of Gene Roddenberry, through the works of Isaac Asimov and Arthur Clarke, and that's, unless in my mind there are some fundamental laws of physics prohibiting it, I know we're going to get there.
At what point in your life? Was it during high school? Was it younger than that? Was it during college? When did you first feel like you needed to be a part?
I think it was during my childhood. I was born in the 60s, grew up in the tail end of Apollo, and Star Trek was going on, and it was those two things, Star Trek and Apollo, captured my mind's eye, and it was not something that was an if, it was a when. It was an absolutely going to happen, and I was convinced of it. And to this day, I sort of felt that was my mission. It was, people talk about having a religious calling. My calling has been opening up the space frontier, and not just going myself, it's taking other people with me. And what happened was, of course, in the 70s, much of the NASA-driven, government-driven stuff fell off the map, and then the shuttle came into existence in the early 80s, and then its promise never really panned out, and so I became sort of disenchanted with the government being the mechanism that was going to get me there, and I made a commitment to myself. I was going to do everything that was in my power to make that future materialize on my own.
Was there ever a moment of epiphany, or was this all just a gradual realization, like the way you've described it?
There was actually a moment. It was 1992, which most school kids will remember as the anniversary of Columbus, the 500th anniversary of Columbus discovering the New World. But 1992 was also International Space Year. It was the year that we were supposed to commit in the United States as a nation to going back to the moon and Mars. We were supposed to commit and have built the International Space Station, and none of that materialized. I'm going, why? What's going on here that all these promises made aren't happening? And I realized in that moment in time that the politics of committing to tens of billions of dollars, potentially hundreds of billions of dollars, was nowhere near as easy as it appeared. And frankly, Apollo, as many of my friends noted for me, was a very special situation. It wasn't something that was going to easily happen again.
Right.
It was something that was an alignment of JFK and LBJ and Vietnam War and the politics with the Soviet Union. And when I realized that, and I said, okay, the government's not going to get us there, how do we get there? And that's when I became enamored with how do we create an economic engine? How do we create what I like to call an exothermic economic reaction for space? How can we create businesses in space that give up give off much more money than they consume so that we actually drive humanity outwards to the stars.
I think that parallels can really be drawn between your paradigm shifting work to move current thinking about space travel away from a reliance on governmental organizations like NASA, and the way that Robert Heinlein's writing moved science fiction into a new realm of storytelling that's based around major cultural themes. And both of you seem to put your fingers in your ears when people say that something can't be done. How has Heinlein's writing really
La la la
affected,
la.
yeah,
Yeah.
really affected your interest in space and space exploration?
So, Heinlein, who is whose work really has inspired me. My favorite book, I actually pulled out a copy here to show. I had it when Spaceship One flew into space to win the $10 million Ansari X Prize on October 4th, 2004. I had a chance to put some personal cargo on that ship. And I put two books on board Spaceship One as it flew 200 kilometers. And both books are the ones that have shaped my life in many ways, at least at that time. One was Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, which was very much about uh, overcoming governmental morass, momentum, and as a committed visionary, making the vision of the future you want materialize. And the second was Heinlein's The Man Who Sold the Moon. And I have the copy. I have my old X Prize business card glued to this, and inside the book there's a little sticker here that says this item was flown in space aboard Spaceship One, flight number two on October 4th, 2004. And this book lays out a blueprint of sort of a capitalistic, libertarian conquest of space, independent of the government, to open up and make space accessible with an economic return that makes it something that doesn't live by the ups and downs of congressional budget cycles or different parties in power. And that was something that's very important to me because I watched, as anybody who's been watching the space program has watched, Democrats come in and this program goes up, and the Republicans come in and then this program gets killed and this program goes up, and it's like, oh my God, give me a break.
Can't we just get
So
anything done?
yeah,
Yeah.
Zero Gravity Corporation that does weightless parabolic flights. I've had the honor and pleasure of flying amazing people like Stephen Hawking into zero G. I walked into the FAA in May of 1993 with my business plan with my co-founders, Byron Lichtenberg and Ray Cronise, and I pitched them this plan. I had raised $500,000 of cash and was absolutely convinced that NASA had been doing the zero G flights for 30 years, flying its astronauts, and hey, the public should be able to go too. And I ran into this brick wall of lawyers telling me exactly why it was not possible. And ultimately, I said, okay, guys, here's the deal. I am going to make this happen. This is possible, and I'm just going to outlast you guys. And that's what happened. It took 11 years to get the approvals from the FAA, but we've now flown 15,000 people into weightlessness, from kids of age 7 to the oldest of 93.
So there's a definite positive relationship between ideas that are published in science fiction and developments in real world science and technology. And Heinlein is considered one of the most influential science writers of the modern age. How much influence? I mean, you've talked a lot about how his book, The Man Who Sold the Moon, has been visionary for laying out a way to get to space and commercialize it. How much influence do you think he personally had on technology development as a whole for the last 50 years?
Uh, I think that the great science fiction writers, and I consider Heinlein in my own heart and my own mind the greatest of them, um, uh, sowed the seeds for the technologists who are creating today's science reality. I mean, the idea of how do I make that thing materialize has to be the basis for most scientists and most science discoveries. So since X Prize and Zero G, I've started a number of companies, most recently Planetary Resources, backed by a group of billionaires to go out and mine asteroids for fuel and precious materials. It doesn't get cooler than that in the science fiction world.
Yeah, it really
So,
doesn't.
so and I've said, the man who sold the moon was my blueprint for execution so far. Now, we still have to get there, and I hope I don't get abandoned to die on an asteroid like D.D. Harriman did.
How did winning the first Heinlein Prize for Advances in Space Commercialization in 2006 influence decisions that you've made in the time since?
I think winning the Heinlein Prize, which was extraordinary, and I have over here. I'll show you guys. See if we can see
Off
this
in the distance.
hanging over my desk. I've got the Heinlein sword um,
Awesome.
and medallion. So you guys mind if I do a little excavating while we're on camera here?
No, not at all.
So
Action is always interesting.
so I had this built, this little case over here, if you guys can still see me, and so let me make sure I don't pierce my skin.
Yeah, don't cut yourself.
So this is the Lady Vivimus sword that that was let's see the exact reference. It's from Glory Road, but anyway, uh, here's the sword that was given to me by Art Dula. It's a gorgeous sword with a shark handle over here, and I've only executed a few perpetrators with it. Um, so the Heinlein Prize came with this sword, which at the event we had a group of 30 astronauts who passed the sword hand to hand to hand, ultimately to Buzz Aldrin and then to myself, which was a really cool ceremony we created for the sword. And then there's a beautiful large gold medallion. It's about, if anybody ever wants to come and rip it off, you'll have to fight me with the sword. And then a check for $500,000, which was pretty cool. So that was the Heinlein Prize. So I shared the prize money with X Prize and with a number of people over the years who had helped me do the work that I had done. I really wish I had known the man. Obviously, I know him through his works, as we all do, but it would have been amazing to have met him. I love the passion, the vision, the purpose, the perseverance that his characters portray.
And if you could personally thank Robert Heinlein for his influence on your career and life, what would you say?
Wow. Um, I think it's thank you for making the future so fun and so exciting. I want to live hundreds of years and build spaceships to get there. So, and I do believe that. I mean, I am committed to building the spaceships. I'm committed to human longevity. I think that during our lifetime, we're going to be able to crack that code. And Lazarus Long and all of the ways of thinking about extended human life is something that is going to materialize during our lifetimes. The notion that we have to die, I think, will become a barbaric concept.
Yeah, I think about these things sometimes. Life extension, going to space as an average occurrence for the average world citizen. These concepts used to be crazy, made up stories, never gonna happen. And
Science
now
fiction.
science fiction, right? And now we're living in a time where those ideas are becoming a reality thanks to people like you who are driven by that vision. And just, I think it's awesome. And thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And thank you to the readers of Robert Heinlein for keeping his dreams alive, and excited to be a part of that small implementation engine for the future.
Thanks to Peter Diamandis for this interview, Ban Books for sponsoring the series, and to the Space Frontier Foundation, dedicated to the settlement and development of outer space. Click on the links below to donate to the cause. Be sure to look for the other videos in the series, including Mark Van Name and Art Dula and the Heinlein Prize Trust. I'm Dr. Kiki. Thanks for watching.
Living in the night.